ice cap zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 you're hearing right there. Which is appropriate, because there was an ice-themed robot in this episode. How's it going, Robot Wars fans? Hardcore Kid here with another episode of the Hardcore Podcast. With me, to my left, as always, I have Otaku Nate.
Are you feeling it? Because I'm feeling it, man.
I'm feeling the burn. Speaking
Freezer
of
burn?
razor burn, frozen burn, ice, freezer, cold. This is a very cold episode in a very cold place. Yeah, we're in the home stretch, and we've now reached the fourth heat of Robot Wars: The Ninth Wars. But before we get into the review, we wanted to introduce our guest this week, because we've now made it a tradition to have a Robot Wars Roboteer from the last series appear on here. Last week we had Craig Danby, who was a great guest last week. It was awesome talking to him and his bird. Speaking of Nate, what do robots fear the most?
Sir Kill-A-Lot?
No, birds. And what do birds like to eat?
Birdseed?
Well, yeah, but they can also like to eat worms. Which leads us to our guest reviewer today. He's new to the Robot War sport, but he's been gaining some recognition. Last year, he competed with a giant wooden box called Overdozer, and in tonight's episode, he competed with a giant metal box called Wyrm. Robot fans, give a cold welcome to Nicholas White. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good, thanks. I just finished watching the episode myself. I'm pretty pumped, full of adrenaline.
Yeah, so I think before we get into reviewing, we want to talk about the machines first.
First, can I ask him a question?
Go ahead.
My first question to you, Nick, is how? How did you guys go from building a dilapidated boat last year to building something that actually looks competent and has a very nice metal wedge?
Well, after we built, hastily cobbled together Overdozer, and took it in the arena, we were basically, anytime we were not doing any work on it, we were running around asking people 1,000,001 questions. And we took all those answers and some more research. We threw it in a pot, added a bit of love, and the end result was Wyrm.
Yeah, it's always good. Like sometimes you always start off with something very basic like a wedge bot, and then you ask around other teams, ask for advice, and basically get tips, see how speed controllers work, how weapons work, and you came back with it's a very interesting looking Wyrm. Even though you guys didn't do well, but we did like the design. It kind of looks like a combination of Sewer Snake and Panzer Mach 4. I don't know if you've heard of those bots, but that's really what it looked like.
Did you take any inspiration from a Sewer Snake in your design?
We get that a lot. The short answer is no, not originally. We did have CAD renders of what we ultimately wanted the robot to look like, but because we went into the arena 2 kilograms overweight, we had to strip a fair bit off of it. But that was certainly the first comment. As soon as we rolled it into the arena, someone says, "Oh, look, it's a ghetto sewer snake."
You know what? That's a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's a good robot, but it wasn't exactly our intention to make a facsimile of it.
Obviously, you competed in this episode, so we're going to talk about it. You can talk about your experience with it. Now, Heat D is often referred to as the heat of death.
I call it Heat D for death, and that's the name of this episode, because that's my job around here, to come up with the episode titles.
Yep, there was... The weapon that was most common in this episode was the spinner. There was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spinners. I guess you could count 6, because High Five had a drum on the back, but...
Yeah, we'll get to High Five.
But yeah,
Poor
this
Sarah.
this was Spin City, population 5.
The other three, we had a set of jaws, a set of claws, and a wedge. Get used to us saying wedge, Nick.
Yeah, it's become a gimmick.
Okay.
So we'll start off with the first match in this episode. Your robot Wyrm versus Frostbite versus High Five versus Supernova.
This fight.
It actually didn't last. These first round matches really didn't last long.
I mean, I complained about last week's melees being non-events, but jeez, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really much of a fight, to be honest.
What happened with High Five? Because they just moved forward and then they stopped.
I can't actually remember. I remember going over to the team in the pit, but my mind is just drawing a blank onto what they said went wrong. But yeah, I think they took one hit and then that was it. They just stopped.
And what happened to Wyrm? Because it seemed like the same issue. You were doing good. You looked like you guys were gonna go through, and then you went towards the pit button, and then you just stopped. What happened?
Yeah, right. One of the first things we learned within about 5 seconds of driving Wyrm, that was the first time actually we physically drove Wyrm in its complete entirety. And one of the things we realised was it had a really long wheelbase, so the turning radius was non-existent. So I tried to turn, but I just kept going straight. We hit the arena wall and we threw both our drive chains.
Oh, that stinks. I've never been a big fan of chain drive. Like I always thought like direct drive, like and those big NPC motors seem to be the most common. They seem like the most efficient motors. Like with chains, there's always the chance that they just drop off.
Yeah, yeah.
What happened with Storm 2 in its some of its live circuit fights?
Yeah,
the chains kept
sometimes
falling.
kind of like that. Let's talk about Frostbite. There was a bit of controversy
Okay.
regarding
Can I-
Frostbite.
Can I take over?
Go ahead, Nate.
Okay. So, what was it that Jonathan Pierce said at the end of every episode?
Building robots is dangerous and should not be attempted without great care and parental supervision.
Well, these kids and their teacher, God bless them, they uploaded a video of them testing Frostbite
On a piece of cardboard.
on a piece of cardboard in a classroom
Yeah.
at school.
Which is a no-no, really, because in a room that small, you could hit just about everything.
Think about your health and safety. Think of all the property damage you're causing. Think about those poor cardboard cutout arts and crafts that all the kids made. Think about those poor chairs in the corner, man.
Well, to be fair, I test out my Beetleweight Mondo Bizarro in my workshop basement, and Dad always gets mad at me because I tear up the molding.
Well, at least you're testing robots that are no bigger than my hand.
I don't know. But yeah, it's like, Frostbite, it's a good design, but the teacher really needs to find a safer place to test it, like maybe outside or maybe in a giant open space.
So,
Yeah, it wasn't. Sorry, I was going to
fine.
say it
Go
wasn't.
ahead, Nick.
It wasn't really. It wasn't really well thought out on their part, though. They did upload the second video where it was presumed it was in a cage fighting a chair. Did you manage to see that one?
I did not see that one, but like that first was just a big red flag.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a roboteer, but even I know that is not proper safety.
Mm-hmm.
So, now I guess we can move on to High Five. This was built by the same team who currently owns Smidsy, and it really shows because it looks exactly like Smidsy.
It even has the go-kart wheels.
Yeah, unfortunately, it never got going. Like Nick said, it looked like it just moved forward, took a hit, and then just died. And
Where, like, did the speed controllers malfunction or something?
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe Sam will...
Because another thing about High Five, and those jaws at the front, I couldn't really see them doing much because they didn't really seem to have that much reach. It's got like, sure, it works invertible, but those fingers just prevent the robot from like going up it, so you really can't do that much pushing. I don't know. It could have worked. It would have made a good ram bot.
So
But like I said, I give kudos to the team that they were able to put something like this together. And hey, if it works, it didn't work in this episode, but hopefully they come back or maybe see them on the live circuit.
Sarah Mallion's a real gem.
Absolutely, she's truly, truly, truly outrageous.
Yeah.
And anything you want to say, Nick?
No, it was just a bit of a shame actually. Never really got to see it fight because the team themselves were absolutely brilliant. Just always willing to help, especially when we had a few issues ongoing before the head-to-heads. But yeah, Sarah especially, she was quite lively in the pits and quite good for lifting spirits.
And we'll move on to the last robot in this match. The robot I consider today's Hypnodisc. Like, some people say that Carbide is, but I think this is. It's Supernova.
Yes, good old Supernova. The Belendrins are back. This was probably their best performance in Robot Wars ever.
Supernova, the team has always had a lot of bad luck, because they've been fighting for a long time, ever since Series 2 with Oblivion, and they finally came back with a really powerful spinner. Problem is, though, it always seemed to have a lot of trouble with control. Like, last year, it just gyroed into the pit.
That was one of the best moments from last year.
Yeah, it was funny at the same time sad, because I wanted them to do well. They did much better this year, but unfortunately, the drive just gave out, and that was pretty much it for them.
Was there any insight you could give us, Nick?
Any insight?
It's Supernova, yeah?
Yeah. Powerful spinner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it was a bit frustrating with the chain drive, to be honest, because I think it had a lot of potential if they managed to implement a better system than that. But it's certainly a marked improvement over last year, and it was they seemed to control it a lot better.
Definitely a lot tougher this year, I'll say that.
Yeah, they changed the disc to Hardox, and that's like the toughest material there ever is.
That and the body. I'm talking specifically about the bodywork, because they're no longer armoring it with wrapping paper.
No, it's you see it after they come out of a fight, and there's barely a mark on it. But then you'd watch them lift the top panel off, and there would just be bits lying on the inside.
Were you happy you didn't have to face Supernova, Nick?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
It would have been fun. I like to get in there and get as many fights as possible. That was really what I wanted, but we could only push the robot so far. So I guess yes, we're kind of glad that we didn't go ahead with that, and it was Pulsar instead.
Yep. So, basically in this first round, High Five and Wyrm just stopped. Frostbite got absolutely obliterated by Supernova, chopped up into ice cubes, but still managed to survive to the end. And,
Don't need to be so cold, Supernova. I'm gonna be breaking out the Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze for a future fight.
Kick some ice! So, Frostbite and Supernova go through, and we move on to the second match. Apex versus Crustacean versus Ironside 3 versus Pulsar.
Yeah.
This was another short match. Crustacean, God bless them. I like the design. I'm glad they brought the gloves back.
Those new gloves look sick.
But this basically showed. It's the same machine as it was way back in the 5th, 6th, 7th Wars.
It took significantly less damage than I thought, because I was just expecting it to get absolutely wrecked, but it was just one big hole in the side that was caused by Ironside 3.
That's really... It just shows how powerful these machines are. And Crustacean, it was the odd one out of this match. I mean, you've got 2 diagonal spinning blades and a small vertical spinner, and Crustacean just has these claws, and I really don't know what they would be able to do with them. Maybe grab onto Apex's blade and push them around?
Possibly. I think that's what they were trying to do. It needs thicker claws, because those things are really tiny.
Yeah.
I hope they come back with a new one, though. I always enjoy...
They were at a live event last year, and They won some matches, but again, it did look a bit outdated. But I am happy that Crustacean is still around.
And I'm glad to see Dominic and Ian Visser back.
Yeah, Dominic, he's grown now. He's 20. And now his
He's got
dad's the one who has to wear the gloves. Nick, your thoughts on Crustacean?
It is a bit of a dated design, but I really do like sort of like grippers, like clamp bots. I think there needs to be more of them. They're obviously not that geared towards entertainment for like television, but it's that. I don't know. I really like them. I think if I was going to do a different robot to Wyrm, then it would have to be some form of gripper or crusher.
Mm.
Sure.
So.
Hey, grippers can be entertaining. Just look at Jellyfish this year.
Yeah, that's true. Jellyfish was quite spectacular, to be honest, and Dave was, I believe, was pretty proud.
Dave is a wonderful robot.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's great. He's entertaining. And I guess we should move on to
the other robot that went out.
Team Danby's other entrant into this series, Apex. Going into it, I had two predictions. Either this was going to be an epic win for them or an epic fail.
I said that they were gonna blow themselves up.
Well, that
really didn't happen.
It was a moderate knockout from Pulsar. They just Apex worked. The blade was spinning, although it looked kind of slow. But one hit from Pulsar and it was just knocked out, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just sent up and over, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fully expecting it to like start smoking or sparking or what have you. But...
Yeah, pull a PP3D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was funny. Nick, what's your thoughts on Apex?
Apex, I loved it. Basically, the person, Chris, is basically one of like my favourite guys ever, just because he was always willing to answer any question, depending on how inane it was. So, as soon as he came in with Sam and Apex, immediately went over and he basically tore it down. But it's an absolute phenomenal spinner. They couldn't actually test it in the test arena because they were concerned of the safety. So they had to wait until all the matches were done for that day to test it in the main arena, because it's a 37 kilogram bar spinning at 242 miles per hour. It's quite scary. And it was certainly one of the nagging points that Chris had was people thought it was themed on Iron Man, when in fact it's not. It's from like Warhammer 40k. That was the theme behind it.
I did not get either vibe for that, but it's nice to know that we finally have a robot based on Warhammer. No.
Yeah. So that basically covers Apex. Let's move on to the Heat finalist of this episode. I know there was no seeding this year, but we're using our own seeding, so Pulsar, I would say, is seeded 5.
Yeah, they would be seed number 5.
So, Pulsar, Ellis Ware. Nate is a huge mark for Ellis Ware. He loves the guy.
Well, yeah, and it's because I think that he's a great role model for children.
Yeah, like you, Mr. 27-year-old.
26. I know, I'm old.
Yeah, we're grown men. Yeah, Pulsar, Ellis, I really enjoy it, but it put up a good performance, but despite it was taking some major damage.
Well, I think we should save our thoughts on Pulsar for later. Same goes with the next robot we should talk about, Ironside 3.
Yes, the winner of this heat.
I predicted Ironside 3 to win the heat, and so far I'm 3 for 4 with my predictions.
Yeah, I did too. I'm very happy with Ironside's performance because Trevor Wright, he's been doing this since 1999. He's had Velociraptor, he's had Mega Mouse, he's had
Mighty
Mouse. I keep getting those two confused. But yeah, his robots, they were very defense oriented, never really offensive. Ironside 3 is a completely different beast.
It's just Trevor Wright at his darkest, because you know, as far as like for the longest time we'd often mock Velociraptor and Mighty Mouse as just being these rather useless robots that couldn't do much. Velociraptor, it usually broke down or got destroyed.
You know, the only match it won was a football match.
Yeah, soccer match.
Yeah. But, yeah, we really like this bot, and we're very happy to see Trevor finally make it to the grand final.
He deserves it. He earned that win.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, he certainly deserved that, especially after the last series. 'Cause I think that was one of the controversial judges' decisions, wasn't it?
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But kudos to them. Good team, good robot, and yeah, it showed.
So basically, this was another short match. Ironside 3 took out Crustacean in one hit. Pulsar took out Apex.
And that was it?
Yeah, that was it.
So now let's move on to the head-to-heads. And we're going to start out with Supernova versus Frostbite. And I'll take over here.
Go ahead.
I don't know how many people here listen to Sam Elliott's reviews, and if you don't, you should check them out because they're awesome. But Dave Laurie from Jellyfish was talking with the kids from Frostbite, and they said, "We can't wait for our robot to get destroyed." Well, you got
success.
You got your wish, kid, because this fight, this was like Hypnodisc and Splinter all over again.
Yeah, just reduced into icicles, just snow all over the place.
Allow me to break the ice.
What killed Frostbite? The Ice Age!
Stay cool, Frostbite boy.
Yeah, well, you gotta... You know what, if it wasn't for this match, you wouldn't be reinstated, Nick. So
I know.
You gotta give thanks to the Supernova team.
I gave them all my thanks. But actually, to be honest, the head-to-heads took us by surprise. Because, well, actually, going back to what you said about the kids saying, "Oh, they want the robot to be completely destroyed," they were actually slightly disheartened that they made it past the head-to-heads, which I think surprised a lot of people. But in the end, they got their wish when they went face-to-face with Supernova.
Yeah, and it went out in a spectacular fashion.
Yeah.
That's what everyone wanted.
Mm-hmm. It's what we like. Yeah, I do feel bad for the boys. I hope we see them again, though. I hope they've learned their lesson about building a robot out of
polycarb.
And, most importantly, exercising proper safety when testing it.
Yes.
I know the second video they learned their lesson, but come on, man. That's school property.
Well, I don't know. So Supernova wins by murder, death, kill, knockout. And so we move on to
Ironside 3 versus Pulsar.
The rematch.
Oh.
What is going on with these bots and the timer? Like last year, Pulsar flipped over Ironside. Ironside was clearly out, but there was no timer going. And then Kill-A-Lot basically flipped Pulsar over. Match continued. Pulsar broke down, pushed into the pit by Ironside, but then they decide, oh, we got to go to a judge's decision because apparently Ironside was immobile for 10 seconds, but we just didn't count them out. Complete opposite here, because Ironside, I'd say it was kind of on top. Because it was getting hits, Pulsar's weapon wasn't working right, and at one point it smoked. And then, for whatever reason, was it, I think it was the girl on the Ironside team or something? She said, "Oh, Null Sharky's counting us out." And it's like...
No, they're
not.
They didn't look immobile.
No, and Pulsar was clearly still
doing
moving.
The gyro dance.
It was... The wheel was kind of broken, but it was kind of still mobile. And it's like, what's happening here? So Ironside isn't attacking Pulsar. Pulsar is just spinning around in place. Kill-A-Lot grabs the claw, flips him up. This match really was like the bizarro Pulsar and Ironside of last year. Kill-A-Lot getting in, attacks Pulsar. It was just a weird match.
Do you think can you give us a little insight into this whole decision? Because I pretty much know Sharky's decision just comes down to my hand slipped.
Well, I don't really know much about the. I don't know more about it than what was aired, to be completely honest. But what you don't see in the control booths for the arena is there's two small televisions either side, and
I did
they
notice those, yes, but go on.
they display the countdown for mobilization. So what I do think is, well, his hand slipped, and I think maybe Ironside's booth started the countdown, which is what sparked them to follow along. But obviously that wasn't the case because
Yeah.
Pulsar was doing this little gyro dance.
But no Sharky, he was impartial, and he decided to call it a draw and give both teams the 2 points.
Yeah, it was pretty fair.
Pretty fair.
Logic. That's reasonable.
We need to be fair in the midst of a complete technical botch. So yeah, Pulsar and Ironside, they get the 2 points. They are now 1-1 and one tie.
No, it's... Okay, we're editing this
We're
out.
editing this
So,
out.
yeah,
I'm trying to think.
Both robots won.
Both robots won, so Pulsar is 2-1 and nothing over Ironside. So, the next match... What was the next match?
I believe the next match, it was was it Supernova versus Pulsar?
I believe it was.
Yeah, we're recording this right after the episode, and I forgot to write the order of the fights down, but I guess in the long run
You
it
fool!
doesn't matter. So, yeah, this one... Dave Laurie from Jellyfish said that he doesn't like spinner versus spinner battles, and it's kind of easy to see why, because...
usually they only last, like, one hit.
you just need one good hit, and then it's over. This, I think, was a prime example of that. Although in this case, it wasn't really a spinner that killed the spinner, it was the wedge.
Well, I don't know. Pulsar's weapon, I believe, was working, so yeah, it was kind
Maybe.
of
I'd have to watch it again.
Yeah.
But Supernova drove forward, Pulsar drove forward, Supernova ran right into the wedge drum, and then it just was sent flying. Hell of a hit from Pulsar.
Yeah. And it went into the wall. I believe the chains on the wheels fell off, so Supernova really didn't have much movement. So
And Pulsar just attacked it, and
that was
that.
That's a shame. Because,
Yep.
again, Supernova is a robot I really like. I really want to see it do well, perhaps make it to the grand final. But it suffers from this problem that a lot of spinners have. Sometimes the hits can recoil back on you, and you just knock yourself out. Like Hypnodisc in the 6 Worst semifinal. He was getting hits in on Spawn Again and Bigger Brother. Then they ran into the wall and KO'd themselves. That kind of stuff happens, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Nick, your thoughts?
Well, it was a bit of a quick fight, but I think that Supernova did do a little bit of damage, or there was certainly a bit of damage incurred on Pulsar, because they did take a gouge out of their drum, and it bound a little on the frame. So there was something there, but I'd have to watch it back myself to see what actually happened, with the exception of Supernova going flying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Pulsar wins that match by knockout and gets the 3 points. And we get the next match.
Your debut in the head-to-head. So talk us through just the reinstatement.
Well, we suspected it after the head-to-heads. We were waiting for the call to action, basically. We got our drive fixed by converting the 4-wheel drive into 2-wheel drive, so there was less chain to potentially go wrong. And then we get back in.
And unfortunately, you were back in to Spin City.
Yes.
Against Side 3. Can we talk about our reactions? You know how we've been saying, we normally just say wedge whenever we see a robot whose main weapon is a wedge.
Yeah, we'd like to credit Alex Horn for coming up with the wedge gimmick.
And now we're making it our own.
We're plagiarizing other people's jokes.
So when you first charged at Ironside 3, and Ironside 3 initially hit you, we both yelled out, "Wedge!"
Wedge.
And then once the scoop was sent flying, we went, no wedge!
Well,
I can only imagine how you reacted when your scoop was sent flying.
yeah.
I think I don't think it was shown, but as I was watching and driving, I just went, "Oh," and then you just heard the thump as it it flew off into low air 4, but so it was kind of frustrating to say the least, because we had sort of touted it up as being, it's a wedge, it's 8mm hard docks, it's a spinner killer, and then boom, first hit, it just goes, oh, okay. It noped itself from the robot.
Well, and then Ironside pulled a Ray Billings, said, "Want more?" and got some more hits on you.
Tore off your side plates.
Side plates, wheels. Oh, those...
Yeah.
Didn't you ever run in with Sir Kill-A-Lot too?
Yes. He decided to give us a little tickle as well, which did a fair bit of damage to one of our wheels as well. In fact, it was completely buckled.
Yeah, one thing we pointed out in the last episode was the viewers weren't happy with the lack of house robot usage, but I don't know, Kill-A-Lot did get involved a few times, Shunt got involved a few times.
Natilda got 2 Udas last series.
Yep.
And 1 in this series.
Oh, I love that Uda. Yeah, but another thing, there obviously were a lot of pitfalls in this series, but so far I think only one has aired on television, and that was the Heavy Metal versus Mr. Speed Squared one.
Mm-hmm.
And the pit is always like the one of the most infamous features of Robot Wars, and so far we really haven't seen much of it.
It's both a good and a bad thing, because it is a satisfying feeling to see somebody get down in the pit.
In the pit.
I don't like that version. I just like the monosyllabic pit.
Well, you gotta get used to change.
But, I think I'm glad that it's not being used as frequently, because in the last series, the pit was just sort of a go-to thing, a bit of a cop-out.
Yeah.
But,
well, now they got the new Rogue House Robot entry, which we didn't see in this episode.
There was at least some action from the house robots, including smashing the top of Frostbite.
Yeah, Shunt still holding the reputation as Mr. Guillotine.
It goes, Guillotine! Yeah!
As you can tell, he's a big hockey fan.
Actually, that's a Death Grip song, but I'm getting off track. So,
right. So, yeah, Wyrm, you lost that match, but you're still in it. You still got one more match to go.
And that was the next match. Pulsar versus Wyrm.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a bit of you had a nice little bit of you had quite a unique fix with your robot. Tell us about that.
Well, after our fight with Ironside, Ironside decided that we didn't need the entire right-hand side, so it just tore it right off. This left us in a predicament, as we need both sides to actually drive. So what we done was we transplanted one of the rear wheels from the left-hand side to the front right, and we converted the entire thing into two-wheel drive.
And then, apparently the controls got reversed, so you had to hold the controller backwards.
Yeah, the production team were pressing us, saying, like, yeah, but you've got 2 minutes left, you need to go in the arena or forfeit. And we had no time to look over the wiring or look over the codes inside the robot. So, quick 2-second fix. Left and right's okay, so flip it upside down. There we go. Transmitter upside down, drive is good.
So you go up against Pulsar, I don't think Pulsar's weapon was working in this match. So...
Well, it was, but then all of a sudden it started emitting magic smoke.
Yeah, and then what happened?
Pulsar was mostly just pushing Wyrm throughout the fight, and it got shoved into dead metal.
Yeah, they got stuck into dead metal.
That's how
we had an issue. I need to watch over it again to see exactly what happened, but what effectively put us out was the wedge flipped forward and lifted our drive wheels off the ground.
Well,
So it was a bit of a throwback to our fight with Overdozer, because as soon as King B rammed us, it bent the wedge down and lifted our drive wheels off the
and it
off
wasn't
the arena
you were,
floor.
and it's a lifting wedge. You weren't able to get it out from under there.
I'm a bit fuzzy on this one, actually. I can't recall why. Oh, I know why. We didn't have enough time to put the chains back on for the wedge.
Bloody chains.
So essentially, this was your fault.
Oh, come on.
Well, hey, Craig.
When you're rushed for time, you just had a match where you got completely obliterated. You got to get everything together as quickly as you can.
Yeah, and hey, it's not the first case of a robot here forgetting to remove or add something at the last minute. I mean, last week we had Craig Danby forgetting to put in that one. Was it an actuator?
It was a retaining bolt to hold the flipper in.
Mm-hmm. He forgot to remove the retaining bolt.
He couldn't self-right when he got flipped by the floor flipper.
And in Series 2, George Francis forgot to put the casters on the back of Chaos.
Well, it's always the small things that can just make all the difference. Nick, he was unable to get the wedge working, and Craig, he was unable to get the flipper working, and you know what? It happens.
So that's it for Wyrm, and it was this. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this, but you guys threw your robots into a dumpster.
Oh,
Yep.
why?
Why would you do that?
We want to see it back.
Well, we took all the bits off it. The only thing that went in was the frame and two badly damaged wheels. It was kind of a spontaneous, spur of the moment thing. We were stripping it down to see what was salvageable, and then we realised that the frame was gone. So we said, we hailed down the nearest production person and we're like, yeah, we're going to throw this in the skip. Do you want to record this? And they were like, what? Yes!
Hey, it made for great comedy.
Like 2 seconds, it was just a flash. They ran away, they ran back, got a camera, and then we carted it out the arena, and well, as everyone saw, it went in the skip.
So, will we be seeing a return of you guys? A Wyrm 2, Centipede, Earthworm?
Quetzalcoatl.
What the hell is that?
It's an Aztec dragon. Look it up.
It is, yeah.
I know my dragons. I watch Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid.
What?
I watched
Toru
this.
is best dragon.
Oh, you know about it too?
Hey!
So I'm not totally embarrassed about it. Ugoa is best girl.
Yes. So, I guess we move on to the last match of the head-to-head, Supernova versus Ironside. I love both of these machines, and both of these teams are really experienced. I wanted to see... It was tough to decide who I wanted to see go through. I did vote for Ironside, but Supernova was doing so well, but I guess after all that damage it took throughout the matches, you could see it was starting to take a toll.
It's a glass cannon, but they found ways to take away the glass bits.
Yeah, and Ironside was just the better robot here. Just kept getting hits on Supernova, took out the wheel, just completely started wrecking Supernova. To be fair, Supernova was staying in one piece, but it was clearly dead at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but you know what? It's war. That's what happens. You just keep hitting them and hitting them until there's nothing left.
The way it goes.
Nick, any thoughts on this match?
I think it could have been much better if Supernova had certainly improved upon their reliability issues, because they seem to take one or two hits, and then that would inevitably damage something that would put them out. Um, I would like to see more, like longer spinner fights, but as you've mentioned earlier, just it's the nature of the beast. They're so susceptible to either damaging themselves or just one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, before we move on to the Heat final, I just want to point out something that I completely glanced over. Pulsar celebrated its victories by flipping off its opponents.
Oh, that was the best thing. Hooray, I won.
Oh, stay classy,
Ellis, you are great.
I don't know if he meant for that to be intentional or not, but...
Well, unfortunately, with great showmanship comes a price, and Pulsar was suffering all kinds of problems going through the Heat final.
What sort of problems was it having? Like, it just seemed like everything from its...
Drive issues.
It blew out a speed controller.
Shremek.
In which case I just said, Ellis, just call Rory Mangles. He should help you.
Yeah. Eventually, Ellis decides, all right, we'll use the Shremek arm for the drive. Why not? We're not going to get flipped over. Unfortunately, it didn't work.
And that was the Heat final. It's just Ironside finally enacting its revenge on Pulsar.
And for the first time, Team Mouse, or as they're called now, Team Invade, Team Outlaw. They finally make it to the grand final. And good for them.
Trevor Wright deserved... I really hate to sound like a smark, but Trevor Wright deserved this victory.
That's not being a smark. I mean, Ellis, he was a grand finalist, and Ironside, they had bad luck last year, but now they're a grand finalist. So good for them.
I did see that someone commented in the group that Pulsar was a lot more lucky than it was good.
Yeah.
I will say that it is a good machine, but I think Ellis should move on from the Pulsar design and try and build something a lot more reliable.
I don't know. It's still a solid machine. It's just he just has to work out some of those kinks, like blowing the speed controllers and yeah, because I like Pulsar. I really do.
It's
got
too.
The spinning disc wedge design, which I've seen this design on a lot of like ant weights and beetle weights, and it's quite reliable. Ellis, he's had some good matches. He got a lot of nice knockouts in this show. So I think if he can get some of those bugs fixed, he could probably... I don't know if it'll make it, if it'll win the championship, but I want it to go really far.
Mm-hmm.
Nick.
It'd be nice to see.
Yeah. Your thoughts?
I think, yeah, he does. Pulsar has been extremely lucky, I think, in terms of how far it's got, given that, every match there seems to be emitting some form of magic smoke demon. But maybe he's channeling some voodoo there, and that's what's getting him through. But I don't know, I think maybe if he made the switch to brushed, he would have a lot better reliability instead of using the current brushless setup. But he's made great strides since the last series in terms of sort of controller issues. So
And he's only going to get better as time goes on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. You got to keep pushing at it, and you'll get your breakthrough eventually if you just keep your head down.
And that basically concludes Heat D, the heat of death, Spin City, bitch. Yeah, so Ironside 3 finally made it to the grand final. So now we have 3 different kinds of spinners in the grand final.
A vertical spinner, a bar spinner, and a drum, and a pneumatic flipper.
Yeah, lots of crazy designs.
And next week we get Carbide.
Probably. Yeah, because...
It's strange to think that really the only wildcard favorites are gonna be Thor and Cherub, because Sabretooth is Foobar. Pulsar, I don't think they're gonna be getting it.
Yeah. Well, we have to wait to see what happens in the last heat, which some people, it's been kind of a gimmick where the last heat is always like, has bots that aren't really up to scale as the rest of the series. This heat has the number 1 seed, Apollo, and the number 2 seed in it, as well as a few robots that I feel really sorry for. Oh.
Yeah, we've got Apollo, Coyote, Miss Nightshade, Rusty, Carbide, Crackers and Smash, Mega Mouse, and Trolley Ray.
Trolley Rage! And my prediction is Carbide. What's your prediction?
Carbide. I think that this is Carbide's year. It's the year of Carbide.
It's the year of the spinners. Finally, after years and years of there being no heavyweight spinners, they've finally been unleashed in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Come at us now, Ray Billings.
Yeah, well, hey, be careful, because Ray might file an application for Robot Wars someday.
He will give you more. You want more, he'll give you more.
Yeah, we might see Last Rites over there.
Maybe, if they get an arena that can handle it.
So that concludes Heat D. This was a hell of a heat.
It was frustrating at points. I mean, High Five not working. The dodgy as hell judge's decision between Ironside 3 and Pulsar.
Well, they got both 2 points, but...
Yeah, I'm not complaining, but... overall, not a bad heat, but... I think after the amazingness that was Heat A, and the controversial but still enjoyable Heat B, those first 2 episodes are going to be really hard to top.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see what happens in this last heat and the grand final. I've heard of a lot of rumblings. This grand final is insanity. So, but so far, Thor's the wild card, the top contender for the wild card. We'll see what happens in episode 5, and yeah, that pretty much covers it.
Actually, yeah, Nick, your final thoughts on the episode? Nick,
You there? You alive?
Hello? Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Don't know what happened there.
Okay, can you give us your final thoughts on the episode?
I think Ironside did deserve that one, especially after what happened last series. But we'll see. Pulsar might be wildcard, might not be. Who knows?
Yeah.
But certainly it was. I really enjoyed it. I think my team really enjoyed it. It was pretty spinner heavy, but it's spectacular.
You said on your team page that you won't be entering the next series. Would you be willing to clarify that?
Well, they're looking at filming that in May, and to be honest, after the building Wyrm, it's quite resource intensive, and I just don't have the money to fund fund a new heavyweight, so I'm going to skip a series and then see what I can put together for a potential series 4 if they have it.
We hope to see you back soon, and I hope you guys come back once again with something as interesting and unique as Wyrm, because I think that's why I prefer Robot Wars to BattleBots, because whereas BattleBots is all about the carnage, I mean, Robot Wars has that too, but you always see a lot of very interesting looking machines, and we've got several in the next episode with Crackers and Smash, Coyote, and the Lampshade.
I look forward to seeing that. Yeah.
But it was great having you on, Nick.
Absolutely.
No problem at all.
We welcome all Roboteers to our podcast.
Yeah, if you guys want to just come on to do like episode recaps or just to do an interview where we shoot the breeze, feel free to come on. You know, we're looking to have some people on this show. Next week we're actually going to be having Jim Jamatic
and a special guest Roboteer also on as well.
Well,
we're going to keep it a secret
if we can get him.
If we can get him. You never know.
All right.
Yeah, Nick, it was great having you on the show.
It was good to be here.
And Nate, I thank you for joining me on this adventure these past few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And until next week, I'm the Hardcore Kid saying peace out and cease.
Let's kick some ice.